Well, and Terry, going into this weekend, it's another tough weekend, but after the Colchester game, you said that you thought Yeovil were pretty much dead and buried, but you seem to have come back on that now.
I wouldn't say come back on that, but I would just say that, I think the minimum we'd need to win is maybe 6, 7 out of the games that we've got left, and that's a big ask to do when we haven't done it all season. So I think the reality's still there, but for us this weekend, we've got to make sure that we're trying to pick up points and not looking like we're dead and buried. And that was the thing. First half against Colchester, I thought we were excellent. Then we give a goal away and it sort of reverts back to where we was before. So for us, we've had a good couple of weeks training. We've also had the Somerset Cup game on Tuesday, which was turned into a difficult game for us as well in the situation we're in. So we was pleased we got through that. And with no injuries as well, because we had to play a lot of people that will be involved this weekend. And with the 5 that we're going to have missing, the 4 that we're having missing for international duty, that takes us up to 10 that will be missing for the game Saturday out of your first team squad. So we go in there with with depleted numbers, but we do know that the performance that's needed this weekend is one that's going to be of effort, graft, guts, and pride. And Rochdale were a very good side. They'll be disappointed that they got beat midweek. I think they're going to have maybe 1 or 2 of their key influential players that will be missing. So we've got to make sure that we go up there, we're tough to beat, and we've got to try and go and get goals.
As you mentioned, Rochdale, they're pushing for the playoffs. Perhaps is that maybe going to work in your favour if they're maybe getting a bit nervous about trying to reach the playoffs, and you could take advantage of that?
Yeah, I mean, you can think like that, but that's not the way they play. They've sort of got a relentless approach at getting the ball forward, and I don't mean just kicking it forward, but working the ball forward quickly. They've got real powerful runners that get up behind the ball, and we're going to need to stand up to that. And the common theme that everyone talks about is us scoring goals, but we've not had many clean sheets as well this season. So we need to make sure that for us to beat them, we've got to keep a clean sheet. And that's one of the most important things first, to take that pressure away from the strikers, so that if you do nick a goal, then it's a 1-0 win rather than a 1-1 draw or a 2-1 defeat.
You mentioned the strikers scoring goals there, but you haven't scored in the last 3 games, the 3 games that you've lost. And goals win games. They
do, but when you think about it, we've been beat 3-2 and 2. So 1 goal wouldn't have been enough. And that's what you start sort of chasing goals, leaving yourself further exposed and further open, and then before you know it, we'd have had to have scored 4 to beat Bristol City, 3 Leyton Orient, and then 3 to beat Colchester. And when you're not in a rich vein of form of scoring 3 goals in a game, you've got to try and work yourself back to give yourself the opportunity to nick it 1-1. And Bristol City, we conceded 2 goals in quick succession. We also did that at Leyton Orient early on. So, and then it was the same sort of repeating itself at Colchester. So we've gone back to basics to make sure that we're a little bit stronger and we're going to be in the game for longer. And then, along with the work that we'll be doing this afternoon after chatting with you, we'll be more focusing on our attacking side of stuff, so that we're addressing both parts rather than over-focusing on one.
What's the mood like among the squad? Is it difficult from your point of view to keep their heads up?
No, not really. I don't think it's sort of keeping their heads up. It's the confidence issue. When you're down there and when they've been having to, early on in the season, you've still always got next week. You've always got next week. Well, them sort of run of games have been coming to an end. And then for the Leyton Orient game and the Colchester game, that was that sort of place where you're at the edge of the cliff, and if you don't win it or you don't fight and get yourself out of it, you're going to go over it. And unfortunately, we didn't come out of them 2 games with much credit. So for us, it was taking the pressure off the players, saying, look, we know it's a massive task for us to do, but let's just go out and play and try and get our confidence back and try and put in a performance that then gets you back to getting wins. And by trying too hard, sometimes you end up not doing anything right, and that's what we've had to try and step back from.
You mentioned players that are away on international duty. You could probably do without any injuries as well at the moment. How's Joe Edwards doing?
Yeah, he's close. We don't know how close he's going to be to this weekend, but that's probably been one of the most upsetting things for me since I've taken over, is to lose someone that's been fit for nearly 2-3 years of his career, has hardly been injured, played every game, to miss nearly every game that I've taken over. So it's been heavily frustrating, especially with him, with Kevin Dawson out, that have been real big performers for us in sort of good years as well. And then Simon Gillett as well, who's been a massive player for us this year. To have so many out does hurt you, but it's how the other ones respond, how they come through, and sometimes other people that may not have been leaders before have got to turn into leaders now and step up to the plate. Because as I said before, everybody's playing for their futures, and they've got to make sure that they're putting themselves in, my eyes, the club's eyes, the supporters' eyes, and they've got to make sure that they're fighting for their lives, really.
The emergency loan deadline is 5 o'clock this afternoon. In fact, you're sat here talking to me now. Does that mean there's not a lot going on behind the scenes and no one coming in?
No, not at the moment. There was one or two that we was thinking of maybe addressing, but it's sort of touch and go at the moment. So no, we're not sort of envisaging anything that's going to be major happening today. But if something crops up, then if it's a no-brainer, then we'll surely do something. Yeah.
You have touched on Rochdale. Let's look at them a bit deeper. I mean, what are you going to expect from them?
Yeah, well, one thing they do is until the game the other night, is that they score goals. Henderson up top's been a real handful this year. Good player. Kevin's brother, who we think maybe had picked up an injury, but he's been a real sort of stalwart for them. Real good energy in the side. Michael Rose has moved into sort of like a midfielder role now, and he's been playing very well. So they're really sort of well organised. They're exciting to watch. From the games that Darren showed me, it's going to be a real tough battle, especially at their place. But in recent years, I remember we've had a couple of sort of okay results up there. So for us, we've got to go up there, make sure we're strong, make sure we're compact, don't leave any spaces, and every time we get our chances, we've got to make sure we're a little bit more ruthless than we have been in the last couple of away games.
You mentioned that the fact that they do score goals. They scored 3 against Yeovil here at Hewish Park earlier in the season. In the players' heads, are they going to be looking for revenge for that?
No, I just think they're going out for the next game. I think it's, revenge really doesn't sort of spring into their minds when it's just another game that's happened earlier on in the season. And what you have got to do is you've got to remember what the game was like, how they scored the goals, which was disappointing. I think there was 2 throw-ins that we conceded from. So we've looked at them sort of areas to make sure that we're not conceding for when we're set and we're organised to defend against the team.
Got 24 points, I think it is, to play for between now and the end of the season. One of the big games coming up in a couple of weeks' time is Notts County, because obviously they're just outside that final relegation spots. Are you looking forward to that one and maybe seeing if Yeovil are going to save your season, then you've got to win that one?
Well, I think we've got to win Saturday, because if we lose Saturday, then it's not even worth looking forward to a couple of weeks. And we've got Chesterfield before that. I know it's an old cliche about taking one game at a time, but we're just focusing on Rochdale, and it's game to game at the moment. And then when you see from the fallout of people that's been away, and then all of a sudden next week we got a lot of people that will be back, and then the squad's all of a sudden stronger. So for us, it's judging it game to game, but making sure that the topics that we're coming up against, which is playing Rochdale away, who's going in the playoffs, and we're sort of, as we said before, depleted. How do you go up there to then make sure that you try and get the 3 points? As I said before, we need to be solid, we need to be organised, we need to be very ruthless, because they don't give too many away as well. And then we can start looking forward to the future games. But for us, and from where we are with the club at the moment, it is literally game to game.
How have the fans been? Have they been getting right behind the team, or would you like a bit more from them?
No, I think on the back of the last, especially Leyton Orient, I really understood their frustrations, because it was a game and I built it up to a cup final. The players felt like it was a cup final, and it was one of them ones where the team doesn't turn up, and the pressure sort of grew in with me saying how big the game was, and they didn't really respond to that. And then the next game we had, as I said before, the last couple of away games have been disappointing, but generally, especially at home, we've been giving them a lot more to get behind. And I think even in the Bristol City game, first half, we gave them more than the game. And I've been really pleased with a lot of the supporters that I've been speaking to have been complimentary of the way that we've been playing at home. And then I bumped into a couple of supporters that was disappointed with the last couple of away games. So you do get that sort of mixed bag, but you know, generally and on the whole, they know the situation, they know what's going on, and they're very supportive, because there's been a lot of people that have supported this club for a hell of a long time, and all they want to do now is see the club grow, rebuild, and get back to where it should be, which is winning more games than losing.
What about yourself? If Yeovil do end up going down, would you still like to be the manager here?
I've had this question asked a lot, and the way I always sort of respond to it is ifs and ands and pots and pans, meaning that there's a million different scenarios that could go on. I'm just focused on what I'm doing at the moment. I'm having dialogue with the people that are upstairs and everything. You know, they've got a plan and they've got a vision, and all I'm doing at the moment is dealing with the short term, and then the long term will take care of itself. So saying if this happens, what happens if that happens, until there's a decision to be made, I'm just carrying on doing what my job is.
Just finally, are Yeovil going to stay up?
That's another good question. I'll let you know after this weekend.